Hello and welcome to CNN11. I'm your host, Oliver Jackson, and in today's broadcast we're covering the Syrian refugee crisis. Now, what is a refugee? A refugee is a person who is fleeing their home because of war, conflict, or oppression. Due to the civil war in Syria at this very moment, millions of Syrians are fleeing their home and leaving the country. They are leaving for their safety and the safety of their families. Now to Ned Nelson, who is live from Damascus, Syria. He will explain the background of the conflict and the war in Syria.
Thank you, Oliver. Now, at this specific spot on the outskirts of the Syrian city of Aleppo, nothing looks too much out of the ordinary. But within a mile or two, the destruction caused by the fighting is clearly visible. In fact, this is the only area that the local Syrian authorities would let us film because the situation is so insecure and dangerous here. This is not the only place where the fighting can get scary, however. Take a look at this map which shows all of the Syrian conflicts in the small country. As you can see, there's a lot of violence going on. Now, you're most likely wondering, who is fighting in this war? Now, let's admit the obvious. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is not really a president at all, more of a dictator who has restricted his people's rights since taking power after his father's death. Oh, and he ran unopposed in all of the elections, by the way. After completing a series of referendums or massive government and policy changes, he has kept an iron grip on his power. Syrian residents have, of course, wanted their wreck of a leader to step down and be replaced with a fairer one. But, of course, when you live a lavish life like Bashar al-Assad, are you really just going to listen to your people and step down? This thought is funny to Assad, as he has kept up constant bombings of any rebel organizations that rebel against his policies. These rebel groups were formed after police turned to violence at a peaceful protest in the city of Daraa, inciting the whole civil war. Sadly, Syrian residents who do not want a part in the war have been caught straight in the middle of the crossfire and have had their lives in danger. In fact, around 200,000 people have been killed already due to this civil war between regular Syrian citizens and Bashar al-Assad's forces. Back to you, Oliver.
Thank you, Ned. Many of you in the United States have heard about the terrorist group ISIS. Next, we go to Linda Lawson, who will explain the role of ISIS in Syria.
Thank you, Oliver. Now, about ISIS. ISIS is a terrorist group based in Iraq and Syria, and stands for Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. They are founded on the religion of Islam, and follow or believe in an extreme form of it. They want everyone else to follow this form of it as well. Many hundreds of years ago, Muslims split, creating two groups within Islam, the Sunnis and the Shiites. ISIS is a group of Sunnis. Most people today know about ISIS because of their role in the Syrian civil war. They have infiltrated the fight, hiding as rebels to help defeat the Syrian government. As I stated before, ISIS is a group of Sunnis, but the Syrian government is composed of Shiites. ISIS joined the Syrian civil war to help abolish the government and to be able to take over Syria as its home base, and they are succeeding in their mission. As Junior Scholastic video titled Crisis in Syria said, ISIS has taken over huge parts of Syria, killing thousands of civilians. The government, being a harsh authoritarian one, justifies killing and bombing the rebels, as well as Syrian citizens, by claiming they are attacking ISIS, which has caused mass confusion. And not only has it been affecting all the citizens in Syria, this could potentially affect other countries around the world. Back to you, Oliver.
The refugee crisis has sparked a debate over whether to let them into the country or not. Linda and Ned will be discussing this in a debate.
Refugees. They are everywhere and seeking asylum. Many Americans are wondering if the United States government will or will not let them into the U.S. I believe they should be let into our country.
I, however, am opposed to letting so many refugees and immigrants into our country. Those of you who agree with me, you can call yourself a populist. The rise of the populism ideology is rising in many different parts of the world right now, especially here in the U.S., with President Donald Trump, who has openly expressed his ideas of opposing letting so many refugees and immigrants into our country without any proper control system first.
As Mrs. Binder said, for every 1 million refugees, one terrorist is led into the U.S. Think about it. Letting refugees into the U.S. with a chance of a few terrorists getting into the country is a chance, or a risk, that the United States government should take. The U.S. has not been on great terms with Syria to begin with, and helping their citizens in their time of need could help clear the tension between the countries. It's also the humane thing to do.
As you stated, for every 1 million refugees let into the United States, one is a dangerous terrorist that could potentially wreak havoc in the country. Look at it this way. You are given a bowl of 1,000 Skittles, and is told that 5 of them are poisonous and will kill you instantly. You are also told that you have to take a handful at once. Do you put your hand in? This represents the ideology of populism, and has sparked fear and controversy throughout the world, and led many people to support the anti-immigrant stance, especially with ISIS having infiltrated the Syrian civilian community.
What can 3 or 4 ISIS terrorists do in America? They have no weapons, they can't communicate effectively with others, and they can't get information about the U.S. They usually want information regarding the government, without having a high standing in the government, which takes years to accomplish.
Look no further than the 2013 Boston Marathon bombings, which were completed by only 2 people with ties to extremist groups in the Middle East.
What a wonderful debate. That's all the time we have, folks. I hope that Ned, Linda, and I have taught you much about the Middle East and Syria. Well, my name is Oliver Jackson, and this is CNN 11.
11-second trivia. How long has President Bashar al-Assad held onto his power? 23 years, 13 years, 17 years, or 31 years? Bashar al-Assad has been president of Syria for 17 years.